find the people that you really, really like and talk to them. Like, just stop thinking that there's any kind of wall there, that you're not good enough. Just reach out.
From Toronto, PHANTA Media presents the Not So Corporate Podcast.
Hello. How you doing? This is Mark Traeger, and I am the host of the Not So Corporate Podcast. I'm joined here in studio with Manish.
Hello.
Woo! How's it going, Manish?
Not bad at all.
Did you hear how I got all the way through that because Roland wasn't interrupting me? He's not here today.
He's not here.
He's not here today. I also joined here in studio with Leah Earl.
Hello, and I will say he is here in the other room, and he was PO'd that he was not invited on this podcast.
Was he?
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, this is obviously Thursday. This is coming out towards the end of April. Leah, this is your last week with us.
It is. But
hold on. This is weird. This is what I wanted to explain. It's your last. This when you're hearing this is your last week with us. But we have just come out of a crazy time of pre-recording podcast. So good news for everyone.
Yeah.
Well into May, you will still be able to hear
my
the
voice.
Squeaky timber of Leah Earl.
So rude. It's just like Muffy the Mouse from today's special.
Wow, that's an old callback. Today's special, where the guy's hat, the mannequin's hat would go on, he would turn into a person, and then if it fell off, he wouldn't.
Yeah, and Muffy was the mouse that lived in the little house.
Oh, wow. I don't remember those specifics, but I do remember that it was a department store.
It is, yeah.
And even at the time as a kid, I knew that there was something really old-fashioned about a department store, even back then.
Well, there's still department stores. Actually, it's a really good segue into Manish, because mannequins that come to life are Manish's specialty, really.
What? What are we talking about here?
Well, growing up, like, cause I speak about this in the podcast, but
in the conversation we're about to have. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! We already had the conversation with Andrew. We pre-recorded it. So anyway, what was that about you growing up in Nigeria?
So growing up in Nigeria, we didn't really have like TV channels, so a lot of our entertainment on television came from video cassettes that my parents would buy and then keep for years and years, because we'd have like 100, but then I would just have to keep watching the same ones.
But hold on, so there's like a Nigerian studio that just puts out really bad movies via VHS.
Well, now
that wasn't back then.
No, back in the day, it's like, oh, you want a movie? Okay, this is a movie from 10 years ago that just got released in Nigeria, and it's on VHS, so you'll have to buy it and keep it. So two of the films that were in our library were Mannequin and Mannequin on the Move. So I can literally quote every line from those movies because they were part of my childhood.
I have one. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Mannequins with Kim Cattrall.
I still don't know what you're talking about.
The famous Mannequin film.
Says the guy from Nigeria. There's nothing famous about it. Is that an actual famous film, Leah?
It's amazing.
Did it win an Oscar?
Honestly, I think it got snubbed that year. It was like 1988. I feel like
it should have won for best motion and
maybe like Ghostbusters or something.
Oh my goodness! So you're saying the famous Mannequin film?
It's a great movie. It is where Kim Cattrall got her sort of start there.
She's one of the Sex and the Cities, right?
That's
the old
right.
one, yeah.
I don't even know. Is she the red one or the red-haired one or the blonde one?
The blonde one.
You can keep saying the old one, but they've had so much plastic surgery. I don't know which one of them is old.
The one
that
was old from the start, but yeah, she's blonde.
I haven't even seen. Luckily,
she's not Carrie.
I can honestly say, raise my hand, swear to God, I have never seen an episode.
What?
I feel like this
what
is
do you
something.
mean what?
Well,
have you watched all the Sex in the City?
I've seen all the Sex in the City maybe 3 times.
I know enough of it to say it's Sex in the City, right? Not Sex and the City.
No.
So at least I know that, but that's all I know about it.
Yeah.
And then there's some guy named Mr. Long or something.
Big, Mr. Big.
No.
Mr. Long. Okay.
Don't know anything about it. One of the redheads likes to be with firefighters. Does that happen at some point?
I don't know about that.
No.
I don't remember that
Don't
plot.
know. I know that they like those shoes, the Malona Blahniks or something.
Manola Blahnik. Yeah, that's right.
That I know because my business coach taught me that years ago.
Well, that's
Anyway.
a good life lesson. So for all of our podcast listeners, it is Thursday right now. And if you want a little Mannequin on the Move treat, you can go to our blog that also features Manish. Anyways.
Oh, Throwback Thursday. That's what you meant by Throwback Thursday to Mannequin on the Move.
Yeah, so let's let's move on. Let's
okay, well,
call
today,
Andrew up.
Well, hold on. We got to introduce Andrew. So today we have a very special episode. We have special guest Andrew Embury. He is a freelance motion designer, so that might lead you to think that we're going to talk about motion design. As it turns out, we don't. We talk mostly about life. It gets like super, super, super deep. So Andrew is, he's Emmy nominated. He is an award-winning motion design director. He produces stuff. He's an editor at AE Consulting Inc. So the cool thing, though, about Andrew is he does public speaking, and he does it at conferences and colleges and small businesses, and he talks about all kinds of stuff. We wanted to have him on the podcast because Manny had heard a talk from Andrew where he talked about just the way that he's approached life in terms of how he gets work and how open he is for just moving to different places for work and how he will hustle to get, when he got his first job, which has led to a career where he's worked with clients like Volkswagen and American Express, Toyota, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, the NHL, NBA, Microsoft, Family Guy, Research in Motion, which is BlackBerry. He's worked with big companies on big things, and he is a super, super cool guy. So
he's a wild man that lives in a cabin in the woods,
which we found out now.
But and now, yields an axe.
And now, with that said, we can now go to the conversation with Andrew.
Right.
So as I mentioned in the opening, we have Andrew Embury with us on the line. Hey, Andrew, how you doing?
I'm doing absolutely perfect. I'm getting even better.
Awesome. Were you sick, or are you getting better just because you're talking to us?
A little bit of both.
Well, it's often said that this podcast is a cure for anything that ails you.
Often.
Often. Actually, it's never been said. But listen, I'm glad we could get you on the line. And from what I know about you, you are someone who has lived, I wouldn't say by the seat of your pants, but you're the kind of guy to go out there into the world and see all kinds of adventure and activity and do what you have to do to get by doing it. Is that assessment fair, or is or is that a little bit loose?
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of like that. It's kind of, I don't know. It's just kind of take the opportunities as they kind of present themselves and, dig in deep when a real good one's on your hands, I guess, and just make the best of every situation you can.
So for you, what does that mean? Like, let's fill the audience in a bit of your backstory. You've traveled, and you are you're in motion graphics, and you just have done a lot of different things. Walk me through some of those.
Yeah, so originally I started about, going back 14, almost 15 years now at a place called Fat Cat Animation Studios in New Brunswick. And so I graduated from college, and after graduating from college, I took 3D graphics, and I came back home and worked on a farm for a couple months, and I heard about an animation studio that was opening up in New Brunswick, and it was a great opportunity to further my career, further my craft, further whatever you want to call it. And I was dating somebody from out there. That's when I went to college. And she had an in with the accountant at the time. And so I was like, hey, I have my in. This is great. I'm going to make this happen. So I worked on a farm to save up money to be able to buy a train ticket to be able to go back out East Coast. Because I'm from Ontario. And so that's almost half the country across. And I went to pack up, and my dad stopped me. He's like, "Look, is this your dream? Is this what you want to do? Is this what you want?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is going to further me as a person, my career, everything, all this great stuff." And my dad said, "Well, save your money. I'm gonna don't buy the train ticket. I'll drive you. It's my job as your father to make your dreams a reality." And so
first of all, that is awesome. If I could just say that.
I have a very supportive family. My family has definitely kind of encouraged me to be able to challenge the status quo and keep pushing, keep growing. So yeah, so it was great. So I went out there, made a deal with my girlfriend's parents to stay with them for a few months to be able to get my feet underneath me. And I got a job at a call center. I got a job at a grocery store pushing grocery carts. And then I walked into this place with my resume to be able to get this job. And I walked in, and the guy said to me, he's like, "Sorry, dude, we don't have any money. We don't have any opportunities. Sorry, we don't. Sorry." And, a little bit heartbroken, but, got to think quick on my feet. And so I said to him, like, "It's okay. I'll work for free for 30 days and prove to you why you need me." And He was like, wow, that's pretty confident. And I was like, well, I think I got what it takes. He's like, well, sorry to say, but we don't have a computer for you.
Oh, no.
I laughed and I said, well, I brought my own computer. And he was like, oh, well, we don't have a desk. And I was like, it's okay, I can go buy a desk and assemble one. And he's like, wow, you really want this? And I was like, yeah, I do. And so that's what I did. So I worked for him for 30 days while still working at the call center as well as pushing grocery carts.
And did that live up to your expectations for everything?
Which one? The grocery carts?
Not the grocery carts, no.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was a really great opportunity to be able to get my first kind of step into that whole industry, because that was the first time in my life that I actually got to see what it meant to make a cartoon, what it meant to make to be, well, more or less to be an agency. I came from a very, very heavy business background with my father taking his MBA while I was a small child. So my bedtime stories was differentiating your product and how to manage and navigate the business world. So a lot of those things were kind of ingrained into me as a very young child, but to be able to see how an agency operates, how to be able to see how creatives and clients kind of interact and mesh, it was definitely formational to even now to where I am in my business and trying to grow my business even further.
So I just have to chirp in here. You went to him right after school, like you hadn't had another job at an animation studio, and said, you're going to want me after these 30 days and I'm going to take no pay, build my own desk, etc.?
Yep.
Where do you get the balls for that? That is amazing.
Well, honestly, where did I get the balls? My mom, my dad.
Like your supportive family and...
Yeah, no, it's more or less.
I think the DNA. He's talking about the actual physical.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
It's just more or less. It's actually just kind of. It's not. I've never had confidence in anything I did. First and foremost, like when I was my entire life. After this is going to be a really heartbreaking story. I swear a lot. Just kind of
totally okay.
No worries. We'll bleep it out.
My favorite thing
awesome.
is to bleep out swears.
Awesome. When I was born, my mother was 17, so a teenager, very young, and I was predominantly raised by my grandparents, my great-grandparents, and like for the first 3 years of my life, I was around my family all the time because my mom was so young, and she made it a point to finish her high school education, so she wouldn't become a welfare mom. She wanted to be something that I could be proud of. So, kudos to my mom. She went back to school. She finished her high school diploma, and she worked hard to be able to provide for me and for her, and it was just awesome. And then about my biological father, never really met the guy. I don't know much about him besides, not much, just British, and that's about it. So that's it. So then 3 years on, my stepfather, my dad, Mark is my dad, and he came into my life, and him and his family kind of transformed my entire world and everything that was possible within my life. And I super attached to his mother, my grandmother Mary, and got super, super attached. And she was the first person that really believed in my artistic ability, and she really pushed me to be able to create more and do more. And she passed away when I was 8 from skin cancer. And so at that point, I told myself, I'm not touching art again. I'm not touching a pencil. I'm never doing art again. I'm done. And I was completely heartbroken, and so I started to emotionally eat. So it was just like a regular-sized 8-year-old kid, and then within a year, I was like 200-plus pounds. And I just ate and ate and ate and ate because I was so depressed. Because I blamed myself, too, for her death. So long story short, I never really had confidence because I was that fat kid. I grew up being the fat kid. And so I was 300-plus pounds when I was in college. And I was even 300 plus pounds when I started at this animation studio. There's actually a picture on my Facebook of me like mowing down on a massive hamburger. And it was just kind of, it was not destructive, but it was just kind of who I was. And so I never really had the confidence, but I just knew that, if my dad always said to me as a kid growing up, and I think I can, the little train engine that could, like if you can believe it, if you can dream it and you believe it, you can achieve it. And so I grew up around a very goal-oriented kind of family and kind of mythos in my family. So it's very hard work, the diligence to do it. That makes all the difference. So didn't have the confidence, but I knew I could do whatever was asked of me. I guess that works.
And is this something, I appreciate you sharing that story. Is this something that
we've already delved really deep?
No, I know. You seem so self-aware of it, though. It's have you found the confidence over the years and since then, or is it something where you're no?
No. Every project I take on or anything I do, I always have almost a panic attack. I'm almost that I don't know if I could do it or not, to be honest. I get really kind of nervous, really kind of scared if I'm not going to be able to, uphold my end of the bargain with the clients, and I get worried, all the time.
Well, I think most creative people have a healthy fear, right? There's the fear that pushes you to say, "Can I do this?" versus such confidence that you're like, I don't even need to work. I don't even I think there's the healthy fear, and then there's the unhealthy fear where you're fearful of things that really you shouldn't be because you've done it. You've done it. You know you can do it. Trust the process. Trust your brain. Trust your creativity.
You just nailed it. That's the one thing that nobody in, I guess, the artistic career or in the industry that I've been finding over and over again is that it's the process. It's understanding that there is a creative process. It's not that you just walk in willy-nilly and say, I'm going to make art today, and I like purple, so today's going to be a purple day. It's a process. You walk into it. You have sign-offs. You have check-offs. You have all these things that kind of contribute to the artistic workflow. And that's the thing, is that most people seem to forget that there is a process, that there is boxes that you need to check off. There is things that you need to do before you can move ahead. And I'm a huge fan of waterfall methodology. I think agile is the worst thing that could ever be invented. I don't know who invented it or why they did, but waterfall is kind of the thing. It's the most important thing that people have to understand.
So
you don't walk.
What is this waterfall methodology? Just so that people understand what you're talking about.
So waterfall methodology is essentially, it's a really simple way of looking at it. Is think of it like a waterfall. The water goes to an edge, you get an approval, in this case gravity, and then it falls down and then continues forward. And that's all it is. So whenever you're working with a client, for example, if you have a script, you get this script approved. And then you keep moving forward. And then you get some storyboards done. And then you get approval. Or you don't get approval and you make revisions. And then you keep moving forward. And it's just that simplistic kind of attitude of...
Okay, so that's what we do. What is the alternative to that? It's just, making a mess of everything? I don't get it.
That's exactly what Agile is. Agile is being so flexible to be able to be, making changes whenever willy-nilly to be able to see how things work, and it's just makes no sense.
That sounds like that would give me a headache.
Nightmare.
Oh, it's a total nightmare. And that's where you get the morning scrums, you get everybody to talk about. Let's talk about what projects where everybody's on, and then we'll talk about how we can make everybody else's life better by giving suggestions. And it's that's great, but that's why you get good, talented people on your team, so then they can kind of run with things and they can knock it out. And then if they have questions or they have concerns, they bring it up to the higher ups. And that's where it's kind of really, that's a healthy attitude, because again, that's one of the most kind of first paramounts or milestones of being an artist, is trusting the people that you're working with, because that trust, that breeds so much security, but also creativity. That's the hugest thing.
I've been fortunate enough that we support a writers' conference for almost the last decade. We help this writers' conference that where all these writers and agents and book publishers, and they all get together, but they talk so much about the craft of writing. And before I was into this group, I'm not personally a writer, but before I was in this group, I didn't realize the process that a writer, a novelist, a nonfiction writer goes through, because people romanticize, the writer. They romanticize the artist, the painter, whatever it might be, any kind of creative thing. They think people wait for inspiration. They think that, songwriters, there's this great podcast, Song Exploder, where they talk about the craft of making a song and what goes into it. And it's a process. There are linear steps. Everything is extremely intentional. If you sit by and just wait for stuff to happen or think it's going to happen very quickly, it doesn't. It's book your time, do it day after day after day after day, and work through the process. And whether it's songwriting or writing novels or what have you, I didn't realize how much work it was. Like a true writer will sit down for 6 hours a day. And even if they have nothing to say, they sit down in front of their computer, or by pen, some people still, but it's you sit down and you do your work. Have you taken, because I know you've done lots of fantastic work, and you speak and you train people and you do all these things, but do you still have that fear, or do you trust the process enough to get over the butterflies?
I still have the butterflies. I think they're kind of monumental because, like, you never accept a project going into it that you haven't sorted already. Like, you go in understanding that you have the process, but it's very collaborative. Like, it's very much very important that you have to understand that you're not the whole picture. Being the artist is one part of the machine. You have to still respect and understand the client's concerns, the client's needs, what they're looking for, what they're hoping to achieve. Because at the end of the day, you have the talent to be able to employ what's inside their head, because they don't understand the visual medium, in this case animation. So animation is having a sense of timing and space, and that's the thing, is to be able to understand that as a client, they have conceptually what they want, but the problem is that they're not trained, they're not articulate enough to be able to create that themselves.
Yeah, but what are you afraid of?
What am I afraid of all the time? Honestly, I think that I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, and I can't be a repeatable process, because like art again is just very, it's some days you feel very motivated, some days you don't feel anything, and it sucks. But you still have to be productive on those days that you feel like shit. Mm-hmm. And those are the days that I'm afraid of, because like those days sometimes could take 2-3 days when you have a project that's due in 4 days. And the thing is that you still have to hanker down and try to sort through those feelings, if that makes sense.
It totally does.
Can you relate to that, Manny?
Yeah, completely.
Manny's our motion graphics guy. I guess you already know him. Sorry.
Yeah, it's funny though, because I come from like an editing background.
Yeah.
And I used to say to people, like, I would try to hire I'll say inexpensive, inexperienced editors. Like, basically you want someone cheap, and you don't, until you start to work with people who are inexperienced, you don't realize how much you actually innately know. But
totally.
But one thing that struck me was that I kind of landed on the idea that the mark of a professional is someone who is able to produce equal quality work, whether they're inspired or not inspired.
Totally.
Right?
And that's just it. And that's exactly, like, for example, if you're going to buy, a great euphemism is thinking about it, like, this is, stealing completely from my father, is, this goes for every career, mind you, is like, have a look at it like a mountain, right? Think of it like Everest. So if you look at Everest has a wide base. So the wide base, there's lots of people at the base camp. There's lots of people partying, having fun, good times, right? Then you go to camp 1, and people you're starting to acclimatize. You're starting to work hard to be able to get to that first camp.
I hope this analogy doesn't have any dead people at the side frozen.
There's always dead frozen people.
Oh, gosh. We went there. Oh, no. Okay.
They're called clients. No,
okay, keep going.
But like what happens is that you constantly have to fight against gravity in your own body, in your own mind, to be able to get to the top in time and trial. And the thing is that you have base camp, camp 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you get to summit. And the problem is the higher you go up, the less and less space that there is. So you have to realize is that there's lots of opportunities. There's a lot of people out there that do not necessarily substandard work, but they get the work done. So there's a lot of space at the bottom. It doesn't take a lot of talent, doesn't take a lot of skill. But the higher you get to the top, and that's where the best of the best live, and they lie, that's where they are. Those people, they've put their time in, they've worked hard, they've acclimatized to be able to make it so. And those people are close to the top. And that's the thing, is that the space gets smaller and smaller and smaller, to finally, when you're at the summit, when there can only be so many people at once on the top of the world. And that's the thing, is like, to be able to constantly have to fight gravity, to fight your body, to fight everything. Those are the people that you want to work with, obviously, because time and time again they contribute, they create repeatable actions of great work, and it's understanding that it's not necessarily they just show up and it's like, boom, great work, amazing. It's the process. It's understanding that they're going to come into work and maybe they feel rubbish today, and how are they going to be able to get past that? Those are the things that kind of make or break great people.
Getting back to your career arc, I guess, like right after Fat Cat, where did you move on from there? Like, what was the next process after you proved yourself and you got your place?
So I was there for about 5.5, almost 6 years with those guys, and we were a team of about 5 or 6 people, and we grew into about 120 people. Then we went to 240 people within 2 years. We became the largest animation studio in Atlantic, Canada, and we just became huge. We just became a behemoth, and it was fantastic. We were taking on lots of work, so we were more bidding, And then
was this on your shoulders, or was this just based on the fact that they were just ambitious people running the studio?
It was ambitious people. It was people that wanted to kind of make a mark. People that wanted that we had an opportunity to grow ourselves. And it was such a young. It was kind of like the beginning of the renaissance of this kind of computer age of doing digital artwork, because now we can do traditional animation, but we can do it digitally and do it fast and do it efficiently, and we can do revisions super fast. So that's what made us kind of that cutting edge, because we had technology, we had the people, and we had the drive. So it was just a really great atmosphere to grow and learn from.
Nice. So did they take the whole 30 days to decide to keep you?
What's that? Sorry? Did they take the whole 30 days?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. The owner, Gene, at the time, he would walk by my desk every day, and he'd put his arm on my shoulder and he said, 28 days.
Oh, really? Oh, my goodness.
And so, every day, he'd try to psych me out a little bit. And there's a few times, I remember my first all-nighter, massively stressed, and I remember crying and crying and crying. And my girlfriend at the time, I remember crying to her shoulders at Tim Hortons when I was on a break. And I came back, and he gave me one of the best advice, and I still say this advice to anybody I work with to this day, is that hunker down and work, because the most important thing that you'll ever do is use the time that you're given, because no matter what's going to happen is the sun's going to rise 1,000 more times after you're passed away and your time is done. You have to remember that you only have so much finite time, and you can either use the time to freak out, worry, and stress, or do something. And that's the thing, is I employ that mental tactic, I guess, all the time. I have to remember that I'm here for such a finite time, and I can either use that time to worry and stress out or use it. And the thing is I'd rather use it and help and grow, not just myself, but the people around me that I choose to be able to have a life with. To me, that's the most important thing.
You are a ball of contradictions, aren't you? You have this amazing advice you give people, but you still come into projects nervous.
Oh, totally. I think that's trying to be humble to it, because I don't want to come in and be like, I'm Mr. Incredible. It's going to be amazing. I don't, because I know that I'm going to walk into the situation and I'm a cog in the machine. I know that I'm part of the process, and I know that I can help people with my talent and my ability, but it's going to help them, I guess, whatever they need me to do. And, necessarily that's where you have conflicts of interest, you have people clash, you have headbutting, and that's all part of the creative process. But the people that walk into it not thinking that, that's where it gets kind of like a tumultuous territory. It's like walking on eggshells.
For me, at least, the nervous energy before every project, or even in the middle of it, or right before I'm about to show a rough cut to a producer.
The rough cut, or even at the fine cut, or even at delivery. Pretty much.
It's actually what drives me. If I'm not nervous about a project, I know it's not going to be good. I just know that if what I've done is not making me feel like I shouldn't show it to someone, or it's not met someone's expectations, or is not good enough, or just something that is derivative of some other kind of work. At that point, I feel like, you know what, I'm not even invested in it emotionally, and that's
totally. And you have to remember that emotion. You have to this is the best thing, is that you're creating animated life. You're making an inanimate object animate and emote and create emotions in other people. How cool is that? I'm not talking about just characters. I'm talking, you can take a box, you can take a sphere, and you can tell an amazing story with just the simple objects. Those simple primitives can make or emote the most important, I guess, emotions that you'll feel in a day. That's cool. And that's the thing, is at the end of the day, that's your job. You get to do that day in and day out. That's cool. And that's the thing, is those things make or break people, and that's cool. To me, that's the epitome of kind of a cool job that you can have.
I hear what you're saying, and I think that we all have that kind of nervousness, but I would almost challenge and say the amount of mental energy, the amount of energy it takes to worry about stuff, if you were able to get to a place where you didn't, not in a cocky way, but just in a comforting or confident way, get to a place where you didn't spend any energy on worrying, I almost wonder if maybe you guys are both saying, yeah, you got to be nervous. It's emotional connections, all this stuff, only because it's a bit of a security blanket almost.
Oh, totally. I think it definitely is a bit of a security blanket for myself.
Because if you can get to a place, though, where you are confident enough in what you're doing and the team and the process, or even confident enough to fail, like comfortable with failure. You know, we're going to do good, we're going to do bad, we're going to do our best, but whatever happens, happens. I feel like there's something freeing about that.
I think there is, but getting to that place is not that easy, I don't think.
The one ingredient that you're missing the most is the clients. And you have to remember that unless you don't have the repeat clients that understand your process, and the thing is in this digital technology is that you don't have repeat clients. It's the fact is that you have a fresh client every time that's constantly pushing your buttons, pushing the schedules, pushing deadlines, because either they're a producer at a new agency and they're trying to make a name for themselves and they want to push it to that extra level just because they can. They're the ones with the purse strings. That's kind of the dilemma that you walk into, because you don't know who that person is. You don't know what you're going to experience. You don't know what they want to be able to push onto you. You can fight back, but then you risk losing the project, or you risk having the project taken away and given to somebody else that's either, cheaper than you.
We have an approach though that's like, good enough is never enough.
Totally.
And that's one of our philosophies, like good enough's never enough. But at the same time, what I've learned to embrace in the last year is, and this is an excuse, but in the world of good enough's never enough, we can only do what we can do.
Yep.
You cannot make a computer render faster. Like we've had clients ask us for literally the impossible. And we can only do what we can do. We can work around the clock. We can put extra hours on it. We can put extra people. But there's certain things that you cannot do.
Well, that's right. And that's the thing is and that's where your own kind of your level of kind of satisfaction, your level of quality, that's what dictates who you are. Like, absolutely. And that's the thing is that you have to have those instinctually into yourself as the artist, as the business. And that's the thing is that you have to be governed by those guidelines. Because then again, you can turn away, if you get an ill feeling about a certain client, you have that ability to be able to sever the ties pretty quick.
If you had advice for someone who's just trying to get into this, or even do a career change, or maybe they've been doing it for a few years, but it's just not going anywhere, what would that be?
Find the people that you really, really like and talk to them. Like, just stop thinking that there's any kind of wall there, that you're not good enough. Just reach out. One of the things I learned was from Aaron Rabinowitz at Red Giant. I met him. This is another straight crazy story. I was filming something for Twitter, and I was a stone's throw away from New York City. And I was like, this is a great opportunity. I've always wanted to do New York City. And the After Effects New York meeting was at that time. And Aaron Rabinowitz was going to be presenting. And I've always wanted to meet Aaron. And I was super, super excited. So I was like, you know what, screw it. On the last day of shooting, we were packing up, going to ship our stuff back to New Brunswick. I just said to them, cool, guys, well, I'm going to be sick on Monday. Cough. And I'm going to go to New York City for the day. And they're like, where are you going to go? And I'm like, I'm going to go meet Aaron Rabinowitz. And they're like, okay, well, cool. All right, cool. So we'll just take your equipment home, and that's cool. And I'm like, yeah, that's totally cool. And so I ended up going to New York City that day with my best friend, Steve, who was in Boston at the time. And we slept on a park bench. He had his own, I had my own, and then woke up and went to this After Effects New York meeting. And I met Aaron Rabinowitz, shook his hand, and it was super awesome. And that story is a really crazy cool one too. But what ended up happening is when we got to talking about one of the lessons that his grandfather taught him, and that was, if you don't ask, you don't deserve. And that's the most important thing, is that you have to go out and you have to ask people constantly go out and ask the world what you want, because you don't deserve it if you're just going to sit around. And the reality is that if you sit around waiting for something to happen, it's never going to happen. The thing is that you have to be able to have the own impetus in yourself to be able to go find and seek the truth. You have to go find what you are by doing. And the thing is that you can never ever sit around waiting for something to happen, or networking by sitting at a computer. We're humans, we interact. Go shake somebody's hand, go give somebody a hug, go tell somebody that they're awesome. Give them a call and tell them, hey, you're awesome, you're f***ing awesome. Because we respond to that. We're humans. I respond to that. And it's super important to be able to know that there's lots of great people out in the world that they don't know how good they are, or they don't know that they're contributing to your life, for that matter. And that's the thing, is for myself, I don't know the work that I do is ever going to touch anybody's life, but I get little glances or little kind of inklings of awesomeness when, like, for example, this podcast, like, that's cool. Like, I got asked to be able to talk on a podcast. That's pretty cool. The most important thing is that people matter. And if you realize that people matter and you take those chances, those opportunities to be able to go network and talk to those people, more opportunities will present themselves.
I want to stand up and clap. I'm like, yeah, you got to ask. You got to ask. Like, these are all things that we know. I don't think about enough. Like we've talked a lot about mentorship and asking people for lunches and stuff. But I'm thinking back to, the big deals that we close isn't because I'm only friends with them and I'm there and I'm like, hey, I'm here if you need us. It's because we actually put ourselves in a position to say, give us a chance. Let us do this. We've proved ourselves. Give us this thing that's maybe a little bit bigger than you're ready for, but you're like, you can do it. You have to ask for it.
Oh, totally. And that's the thing is, like, again, like, working for free for 30 days, just build a desk and bring your computer in. The thing is that my career, like, I don't have a silver spoon. I don't know people instinctually. I wasn't bequeathed into this world having those connections. I don't know people. I don't. I'm a kid that grew up in the countryside in rural Ontario, and I've had nothing given to me, and I've just had to work my ass off for everything. And the reality is that I'm constantly going out there to be able to shake those hands, to be able to talk to people, to be able to interact with people, because I don't know what's going to happen next. Like, to be honest, I don't know what's happening next month. There's nothing booked for me. I have nothing lined up. But the thing is that, should I be terrified of that? A little bit of it, yeah, sure. But at the same time, I know I'm going to go make those connections. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to shake people's hands. And to me, that matters the most.
Talking about what...
Hold on. We just missed an opportunity. Okay, guys, if anyone out there listening needs a great motion person for next month, you can reach out to Andrew at Embury on Twitter, right? Let's use this as an opportunity to get this guy some work.
No, because the last time we spoke, he was like, I'm starting my own business, right? Because
that's the thing is, like, I've been running my own business now for 6 years, and the biggest thing is, like, I'm trying to reach out and try to grow it. And there's somebody I'm starting to partner with right now, and he's in Colombia, Jardas Rocha, and he's just an awesome guy. And we get along really super well, and I just want to grow my business, because at the point now where I have enough work coming in, it trickles in. Sometimes you don't hear anything from clients, but then you hear, like, a day before something starts, and that's very traditional, I guess in this industry. Right. But the thing is that there's always opportunities. It's just being mindful and having your ear to the ground, because it's, if you're just going to just wait for something to fall in your lap, you'll be gladly mistaken.
So which town are you from in rural Ontario? That was a big question I had.
I come from, so I was born in Belleville, Ontario.
Belleville, excellent.
At 3, me and my family, we moved to Gananoque, then we moved to Escott. Yeah. And then I grew up there for 7-8 years, and then my parents moved to Lyndhurst, and I moved to New Brunswick when I was 17. Oh. And then I was in New Brunswick until I was 25, 26, then moved back home, then moved to Ottawa, and moved to Waterloo, then moved to India, then back to Waterloo, then England, and then Vancouver, and then back here in the middle of nowhere.
And then back here in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, he actually does live in the middle of nowhere.
Really? So you live in a cabin in the woods, or what?
Yeah, that's what he says. Yeah.
How many acres do you have?
Right around me right now is about 3.5.
Nice. And you're in Ontario somewhere?
Yeah, in the cabin in the woods in Lyndhurst. Yeah.
Oh, in Lyndhurst. Okay, cool.
So for the longest time, I was using.
And you have internet.
Yeah, I was using satellite internet for the longest time, and then I only just got, like, wired, like, internet, not cable, still, like, DSL.
Yeah. Is that with Rural Wave? Is that who you used?
No, I use Westport Telephone Communications.
Oh, my sister lives in the country, and she had one of those, like, line of sight internet things, and they were. I wouldn't say they were terrible, but they weren't reliable or good.
Oh my god, that's the thing is, like, I keep on trying to, like, contact my local MP to be like, look.
So your local MP needs to get you guys high speed in the middle of nowhere.
Pretty much, because the telephone companies are like, well, we don't really see the need of it. And
awesome.
I'm like, come on, I can build a business here. I just need an opportunity.
Yeah.
Because, like, even right now, like, I still kind of stage my Dropbox uploads. I still stage my downloads, because, again, I have to be able to take talks and conversations with my clients, and I can't have Dropbox syncing in the background or it's going to lag.
Yeah. Geez, so like just you having the Skype call with us is like shutting your whole business down.
A little bit.
Oh gosh. Very cool. So that's
sure.
Yeah. Sorry, I also got to ask. You're on 3.5 acres. Is it wooded or is it lawn?
A bit of both.
Do you ever ride a mower?
What's that? Sorry.
Do you ever ride a mower?
I do.
What's your brand?
This is like Mark's favorite
My favorite
topic.
topic.
He doesn't really care about
All
production.
that other stuff you talked about was great. What's your brand of mower?
Honestly, I don't know. It's like gray and rusted over. So
It's gray,
I
so
could
it's
say
probably a
it's not a
Craftsman.
John Deere, but it is.
No, it's
something.
probably a
It's probably
Sears.
like a Canadian Tire brand, something. I don't know.
might
And we
be.
got it when we got the house. So
Mastercraft, Craftsman, yeah, something like that.
that's probably exactly what it is. Probably Mastercraft.
Yeah. Okay. We can move on.
Do
now.
you have one now?
A ride a mower?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had one since I moved. I'm only on a half acre, so it's not like, man, what I would do with 3.5 acres. I could dream. But I also live in a city, so it's like I can't imagine that much space in like a city. That'd be crazy.
Well, here's the thing: is like the town that I live in, the rural town I live in. It's probably like a population of 30, including cattle. So it's pretty desolate.
Do you guys have like a gas station?
No. There's no grocery store. There's nothing.
There's no Max Milk or anything?
Nothing. No.
Oh, you don't even have one of those things that's like a grocery store, liquor store, also the gas station. And
That's an hour away.
what?
Oh my goodness.
That's how he can work so much, because he has nothing to distract him.
All I do is honestly I walk my dog and cut trees down for wood.
Nice. Okay, so let's get on to chainsaws. That's my next favorite
Wait,
topic.
wait,
What brand of chainsaw
Why
do
are
you
we talking
have?
about chainsaws?
I'm a still man myself.
Still is really great. That's what my dad swears by. But I like
Yeah.
an axe, so I use axes.
You use an axe.
Yeah,
You mean to split the wood or to actually like to bring down a tree?
bring down the tree. Yeah.
Wow, this dude's a man.
Yeah, that's
He cuts down a
impressive.
tree with an axe.
Maybe that's how he lost the 300 pounds that he had gained. Because the last time I saw him, it seemed pretty like.
I know. I was going to say the picture I saw was a skinny guy.
Yeah.
Wow, the new cardio, the new like California cardio or whatever is cutting down trees with an axe.
You need a lumberjack. It's really
Okay, Manny wants to get back on his topics. Anyway,
Well, I just
carrying on.
wanted to talk about so like you're an artist, a creative guy by nature, right? But now you're also like running a business. You're being entrepreneurial. What are some of the challenges that you face dwelling on both sides of that? Like, how's it? How do you manage your budget versus your time versus your creativity?
budget is everything. At the end of the day, like the budget defines the creativity in a lot of ways because, you have to remember that, you can only be creative to a certain extent. Like you can throw everything you want at a piece, but the problem is like at the end of the day, like, is it going to be able to, get the next project in? And, and that's kind of my mantra is that you always give your 120% because you never know what's going to be next. But the reality is that this is an investment into the next piece that you create. So the thing is that, the budget definitely defines how much time you can afford to be able to put out a certain project, because you also have to have those lines in the ground to say, this is how far I'll have to work. And this is something I'm kind of instituting, I guess, for this year. The end of 2015 is that I'm trying to figure out that I need to have a life outside of work, because the work that I do is great. It's fun and blah, blah, blah. But also I want to be able to, teach. I also want to be able to instill confidence. I also want to give, help to people that kind of need it. And so to be able to have those lines in the ground saying, look, this is all you can afford, it allows me to be able to step out of the computer and be able to actually start investing back into my community. For example, like right now I'm an acting athletic conditioner for the Kingston Fencing Club. So I'm helping, the next generation of Canadian fencers kind of, grow through the grassroots with athletic conditioning and training. So, it's fun.
Do you have any kids?
No, none.
Okay. I was going to say, man, how have you done all of this stuff?
I also played rugby and boxed.
Yeah, he actually broke his. Was it your nose you broke, like playing rugby?
Have you been stalking this guy? How much
No,
do you know
I
about
heard,
him?
I heard his talk, and I was like, that's what inspired me to invite him on this podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I've done a lot, and that's
Okay,
just,
so what haven't you done in your mind then?
in my life, what haven't I haven't scuba dived yet. That's definitely still up there. I'm never going to skydive. Nope, I'm good, thanks. And
I cannot stand the thought of jumping out of a plane.
I know, like it just makes no sense whatsoever.
No.
Like, you
Well, to some
don't-
people,
don't put any extra hair on your chest. Trust me, I have enough of that. But reality is, like, skydiving just doesn't make you any more of a man. Like, I just think that's kind of like foolish. Why would you jump out of a perfectly good plane? I think that's stupid. And touching a snake? Nope.
You've never touched a snake?
Nope.
Ugh.
I'll cry.
I stepped on a snake with bare feet accidentally in my cottage.
I had a pet snake in my area. I grew up in Africa, so like
That's
snakes
right.
were all over the place.
Right. Snakes.
Sorry, was your pet snake a real pet snake, or did you just like walk in and say like, "Dad, look, here's a snake. It's my pet." And he's like,
somebody in our compound. We should live in compounds. Like in Nigeria, you don't stay just in houses. You stay in compounds. And the guy who was the guard of the compound, he had like a lot of pet snakes. So he would like let me play with it, and apparently it wasn't poisonous, but
But you never really know with a snake.
You never really know. And he also had a monkey, like a small monkey who would climb around.
What?
So these were all my pets.
Dude,
I didn't have
Nigeria
cats.
sounds awesome.
I didn't have cats or dogs growing up. Snakes, cats, like the big cats, like the ones which would maul you, and like if you leave them at home, they might like destroy your furniture. Kind of cats were my pets. Yeah.
Such a different upbringing.
Yeah.
I know, right? That's so weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's not here.
But snakes are gross, so
Yeah.
I just want to lay it out there.
Unless you're a Slytherin.
Why would you ever be a Slytherin?
I don't know why
You
anyone...
would be a Slytherin, wouldn't
I would
you,
not.
Mark?
No, I did the test. I was the other one.
Hufflepuff.
No, the other one, Ravenclaw.
Raven, of course you're.
Hufflepuff.
Anyway, hey, have you ever done the test, Andrew? Do you know what house you'd be in?
No. Probably
No.
Gryffindor, knowing my life.
Everybody says Gryffindor.
No.
No, Leah was in Gryffindor.
I was Gryffindor,
You have to be
yeah.
pretty arrogant and
What? No.
You have to be extremely confident. You have to be super lippy.
You're just describing my personality. I am just a hardcore Harry Potter fan.
Really awkward now.
Yeah. That's how I got into Gryffindor, because when I took the quiz, I know everything about Harry Potter.
I just more like the fact that we're actually having this conversation. But
You never know what's going to happen. Anyway, sorry. Back to so we've covered. I have a checklist here. I wanted to talk about your lawnmower, your chainsaw, Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, yeah.
Okay.
what was the best is actually I went on a call with a client the other day, and in the background I was playing. So I drew on my forehead a lightning bolt, and I have these glasses that make me look kind of like Harry Potter in a way.
Right. This will
In the background, I was playing this. Just during the entire
randomly.
conversation, like when I was talking to them, but like totally playing within character.
But just to set the mood.
I don't know if you'll be clear the song for this podcast.
So
That's
the best thing
okay.
was,
We
like,
don't
that
need
was
clearance.
happening in the background while I was having this conversation, and they had no clue that I was just kind of like playing with them.
Oh, they had no idea.
This was a client meeting.
Yeah,
You are brave to burn a client like that. That's great.
well, just fun. Like it's like when I teach MoGraph Mentor, sometimes I wear a Batman mask, and it's fun.
So you talked about like wanting to teach and wanting to bring a lot of the younger generation of, I guess, fencers, but also animators. And I know that you teach at MoGraph Mentor.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about why you do that? Like, great.
The biggest thing for me, anyways, like why do I do it is because I just want to be able to employ and give back to the people. Like if you're brave enough to be able to take a course or to be able to want something that bad, like you have to realize that it's a big step mentally for yourself to get past that, and to be able to bridge that gap is pretty impressive. But if I can give back to people who who ask, who are brave enough to be able to ask more of themselves and their environment, then yeah, I would love to be able to give back to those people. And not just those people, but just in general, like it's so important to constantly always push that little bit further, because the rule of reciprocity is that you're constantly giving out, you're constantly giving more to people, because you never know, it's going to come back again to you. It's going to be able to give that extra kind of, I don't know, that extra pep in your step. I don't know how to say it, but it's definitely one of those things that constantly give back. It's one of the most important things that you can ever do with your life. It's the saying is plant big trees, because you won't see them in your lifetime, but for your children's generation, they'll be able to sit in their shade. And that's the thing is, you have to have the kind of future sight to give back more than you've ever had yourself.
That's deep, man.
Hold
on. Sorry, I had a follow-up question though. So, you're in the type of creative industry where you have to be, as we talked about, emotionally engaged. You have to be creatively tapped in. There's the analytical and business side and all those other things. How do you keep your kind of creative well full? Like how, I don't think any of us run out of ideas. There's always ideas, but there's certain times where you're like, I just don't have the creative bandwidth to be able to jump from what I'm doing now to the next thing really, really quick, or bounce around or what have you. So how do you keep yourself producing, with the hours you need to produce without running that creative well dry?
It's, to be honest, like for me, it's doing things that is crazy. It's going out and experiencing life that's around us. Like, the most important thing that you have to realize is that life is so short. Like, I'm turning 32 this year. I can't believe it.
Oh no! You're younger than me, man.
That's actually happening. But the thing is that I just constantly go out of my comfort zone. I constantly have to go outside of my comfort zone and do it. And the thing is my favorite quote from all time is Brad Bird. Brad Bird is by far my favorite director, my favorite creative on this planet that's still kicking. He's just absolutely amazing. And his quote that he said is that animation is about creating the illusion of life. And you can't create it if you don't have one. Let that sit in. Like, you have to go out and you have to live a life. You have to be living. And that's the thing, is that's the most important thing that most people don't seem to realize, is that you're creating life in an inanimate object. And that's okay. That's cool. But it's those things that contribute back into your craft. And the thing is you have to realize and pull yourself away from it to be able to breathe life into it.
I think that's sort of like the philosophy Pixar sort of like lives by, in a way, because like they're always like encouraging like people like go take archery, because now your project is to animate this. What's that film they just did about archery?
Yeah, that's right, with Brave.
With Brave, right?
They didn't just do that.
Okay, well, what do I know? But yeah, like it's sort of like like I think maybe he must have instilled that in them, or it's a Walt Disney kind of thing to always be studying life and to like go out and live it as much as possible and get away from your computer whenever you can. I guess.
Drink alcohol.
Drink? No alcohol.
Yes, please. Not an alcoholic, but I do like my whiskey. So
I feel like you could have so much fun with you remember that old channel that used to be like Drunk Cooking or something, where that woman would drink a bottle of wine.
Yeah, a Drunk Kitchen.
Okay, whatever. Yeah. Turn that into like Drunk Motion Graphics, or
dude,
just like
night. What are you talking about?
You wake up the next morning, you're like, why did that keyframe that way? That's weird.
But like,
those are the best kind of those are like the happiest mistakes I've ever made in cartoon. Like when I'm animating, because like you're sitting there and you're just like touching buttons and moving things around, and you're like, oh, looks like crap. Hey, that kind of looks good.
I don't know. I've never been able to do any work drunk.
The comparison doesn't work though, because in Drunk Kitchen, did you ever see her finish recipes? Never worked.
I can honestly say I haven't actually watched an entire episode.
What?
I find it too over the top.
I feel like 1,000 people sent it to me. They were like,
Leah, this is you.
Like, this is right up your alley.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So yeah, that's the reality, is that like you have to realize that what you create, what you do, like you have to remember that, like, go back almost a century ago now, and when you look at the origins of Disney and how they created their kind of their business structure, how they were able to create Disney, like what made Walt Disney, and it was, yes, mentorship, it was strife, struggle, a lot of hard work, like almost like 80% of the original work staff at Disney committed suicide all the time. And it's just because they were worked so hard and asking so much of themselves all the time. And the thing is that it's such a draining craft, I guess, if that makes sense, like a career, because you have to constantly give life in inanimate objects. You have to tell a story. You have to be creative, and being creative is very, very hard. But you have to balance it out somehow. And that's the thing, is the balance where you need to be able to like just kind of nip it in the bud is take a step back, get Get away from the computer. Get away from a sketchbook. Go for a coffee with somebody you fancy. Go high five somebody. Go, go bowling. Shit, I don't know. Go cut down a tree with an axe. That's different. No, not a lot of people do that anymore. So go do it.
Not many people high five either. I think we should instate that in this office.
I high five all the time.
We high five all the time. We just don't high five you.
No one's high fiving me. No. I feel left out now
because you're busy working all the time.
I have a 1.5-year-old. He high fives everyone all the time.
I just want to say is one of my needs to get high fived once a week. That's all I'm saying.
It's like, do you remember that old song like 5 hugs a day or something? Do you guys know the song?
No.
It's like a kid's song or something. It's like, or maybe it's 4 hugs or whatever. It's like a number. 4 hugs a day. That's the minimum. Do you know the song or no?
No.
Manny's going to need to, okay, well, we'll find the song and then we'll rewrite it for high fives for Manny. Right. So that way we know that that's the minimum, not the maximum. Those are the lyrics.
Yeah, I like it.
Anyway, Andrew, man, we're running up into the hour. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, totally.
You are very, very deep. You're like, I didn't expect the conversation to go this way. So it was awesome, man. I took some takeaways that it was really good talking to you, man.
I mean, it wasn't just about motion graphics, it's about life.
It wasn't at all about motion graphics.
No, it's about life and living your life.
This is the title. We're going to have to title this something like not motion graphic episode, the life episode.
Live your life.
Live your life.
Live your life, yeah. To make life.
It sounds like a horrible shampoo commercial.
It's got to be like.
Can you send us a new picture where you're like doing your shampoo in your hair?
In a river with an axe.
Yeah.
And you have a beard? Do you have a beard still?
No, there'll be no shirt in the picture.
No shirt, just jean shorts.
Never nudes, just never nudes.
Never nude jean shorts with Kodiak boots and axe and like full shampoo on.
You're actually challenging me, and
I thought you were gonna say, actually, hold on, I got that on my phone.
Yeah, because I just go into wild streams with bears, selfies with shampoo on my chest.
Well, we did not mention a bear, but if you could get a bear in the frame, that would be fantastic.
There's actually a black bear that wanders the woods right here. So.
Oh, really?
Have you made friends with it yet?
I tried.
Why are you trying to make friends with bears? They eat people.
Yeah,
no, they not as long as they don't already have the taste for blood.
Not unless you high five them.
All right.
Well, if you're in between them and their babies,
clearly you're missing out.
Clearly.
Andrew, listen, man, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely, just happy to be able to help out and be able to, I guess, share life experiences and knowledge.
Yeah.
And knowledge? There shouldn't be such a question mark. And knowledge? Anyway, you have yourself a great day, man. Okay, so that was our conversation with Andrew Embury. If you would like to know more about Andrew, reach him on Twitter at Embury. So I'm going to spell that out for you. That's AEMBURY. His website is aembury.com. And so listen, Leah. Well, I was going to say this is the last podcast with you, but as I mentioned in the opening, way at the beginning of the podcast, it's not, because you're going to be like hanging around mysteriously, because we have the anniversary episode coming up next week. Week after that, we have a conversation about account management with Tanya Stadnick, which is a fantastic one. The week after that, we have Mr. Evan Carmichael on talking about risk.
The one and only.
The one and only Evan Carmichael talking about risk. We have so many cool things coming up. And at the end of each episode that we've recorded, I always wanted to say, like, oh man, I wish I had just did a shout out or something. I wish I had just done it. So now I'm going to remember to do it on this episode. If you have a comment or question or a topic, or you would like to come on the podcast, and you can pitch us a topic. I'm not going to say just email us and we'll invite you on. You got to be able to talk about something cool and interesting. You got to be a cool guy like Andrew. But if you have a topic, if you have a question, if you'd like us to talk about a topic, drop us an email. Feedback at notsocorporatepodcast.com. You can reach us on Twitter at PHANTA Media. You can leave a YouTube comment. You can leave a reference or whatever, a review on iTunes, which we don't get pinged, so I don't really see them. But feel free to reach out to us. With Leah going away, we are a ship without a rudder. We are producerless. So things are about to get a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I think Andrew would say, like, maybe it'll Be awesome. Dive into the adventure.
You know what? We're gonna. You know what our new theme song is? Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins. That is what we're gonna go with. So you know what, Leah? Drop us under right now. Can we clear Danger Zone? Can we get clearance licensing on Danger Zone?
No.
Yeah.
But we
so
can
imagine the Danger Zone is playing in the background. For anyone who's local, anyone who's Canadian who has ever been to Canada's Wonderland, there used to be a ride called Top Gear. And while you were waiting in line, on repeat, they would play Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins. And not the whole song, just the chorus. Let me tell you how annoying that gets.
It could be a long wait for that ride too, like an
hour, 45
like
minutes
2 hours if it was like out at the door.
You never wait 2 hours for Top Gun.
I think you would.
Anyway, so just remember, just start humming it. Just start humming. You know, it's not even owned. Like, I didn't even know this. They've changed all the names of the rides because it's not owned by Paramount anymore.
Right, they changed.
Right.
When we were younger, Paramount bought it, and each, like, there was the Italian Job ride. There was like each ride was named after a different theme or different movie. But then when it got sold and they lost all the licensing, they've renamed them like these generic bull names.
Well, I think it's more accurate names.
Like what, like Snooze Fest?
No.
Boring Zone.
I haven't been to Canada's Wonderland since I was 16.
I haven't been since. Okay, my wife and I went before we had Rachel, but after we were married, so we were probably about 22, and we realized at that age we were already too old for it.
But are you thinking you're gonna have to go back?
My wife goes every summer with the kids.
Oh, you don't go.
I have to work.
To pay for them to go to Canada's Wonderland.
It's so expensive.
It is expensive.
Especially if you have 4 kids.
She's getting the family pass, like the season family pass. If you go twice, it pays for itself. But then I go, you know what's even cheaper than going twice? Not going at all.
Go to the zoo.
We have a season pass for the zoo.
I do too.
The zoo is not cheap.
I love the zoo.
No, we got given a season pass by some family. Greatest Christmas gift you can give someone, because the kids you can't see the whole zoo in a day. Right? It's too much walking.
Yeah, I disagree.
You have never gone with a 3-year-old then?
No, right. Yes. I went last year probably like 10 times, and I saw the whole zoo every time.
But you were like with a stroller hiking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, try going with a little kid who has to walk, and
then wants to look at everything. Right,
and you're like, just hurry up and walk, and then you have more than one kid. Like we have 4 kids, so they want to see different things and blah 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 blah. Anyway, whatever. It's a train wreck. Anyway, I was in the process of closing when you got us back on this train.
I don't know.
Anyway, with that said, Leah, we will.
My last fresh episode.
Your last fresh episode, guys. Thank you. Listen, again, thanks to Andrew for joining us, Manny. As always, you were not only a rock star and a professional on this podcast, you brought it to a level that we've never seen before.
What?
And you brought us the guest. Maybe you're the new producer.
There'll be a lot of animation guests. It's like all designers and animators.
Maybe we need to go to, you know how some TV shows when they don't have a host, how every week it's hosted by someone else?
Yeah.
I mean, I know they have the same producer for continuity. Maybe we got to go the other way. Every week it's got to be produced by someone different.
Yes, I like that idea.
In the company.
Yes, why not? Let's do that. But that way we can each bring our own flavor. But that person also has
to edit it.
Well, it'll be easy to edit if we produce it.
No,
like I could edit this one in like, how long does it take you, Leah?
Hour.
I can do it in half an hour.
No,
you literally cannot edit it in half an hour because you have to listen to the whole thing.
Have you heard of triple speed?
No, you got to listen at double speed because otherwise you miss the bleeps.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, with Andrew, a lot of bleeps.
Not as much as Roland last week.
Which is not last week, which is actually in 2 weeks. You will hear how much he swore. Was it? Oh, no, it was last week. Yeah, it was last week's episode.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, guys, stay with us for next week when we have a very special anniversary, our first anniversary of the podcast. Very special anniversary episode. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Highway to the danger zone. Danger zone! Perfect. Thanks, guys.